welcome to the Forbidden Door review. We are the Dadley Boyz of What Culture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened on this weekend's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision, but also Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete with a very good quiz, of course, on Wrestle Culture. As I said, they're joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to join live on YouTube our review of Forbidden Door. Sidge, let's dive straight into the whole show. What did you make of it?
I thought Forbidden Door was very, 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 very good. It never reached great for me. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean I should be disappointed? Has it not met a standard? Did I have a great time watching it? No. There's a bad news, good news here. I expressed concerns ahead of the show with its... Did it have 15 matches in the end?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
15
the kickoff,
match card.
I know whatever it's called.
A 15 match card. I thought, well, the bad news is that at some point, this up for it crowd is going to die and we'll get the lull in the middle. The good news is that they were never really that up for it. So there wasn't much of a lull because there wasn't a great deal of atmosphere throughout. But Swerve Strickland, under big pressure, became the diamond. And that crowd felt like a proper AEW crowd at last for the main match. Again, this increased pay-per-view schedule is starting to feel the weight of itself now. It no longer feels quite as special. You got 60% of TV not meaning much, and you're doing near monthly Big Egg Wrestling Universe shows. It's, it reaches a point of, another one.
Yeah. This was all right as a show and really, really good in places. Some high peaks to talk about here. But ultimately, the things that stood to work against Forbidden Door worked against Forbidden Door. That's the reality of it. The stuff that we, and not just us, but people in good faith previewed as things that could work against this event did. I simply cannot get into the conversation about length of shows because I just think at this point there's willful ignorance on both sides, of which I know I will have contributed to at one point, but I feel like everybody, it's way more subjective than anyone ever gave it credit for. It's so much more rooted in your feeling.
What works as well.
Yeah, the things such as...
You got into it on X over the weekend, didn't you?
Not really. Somebody tried to. Well, I won't respond to grasses, nor people that want to go looking for bad. I like to have chats with people on X, but I won't have fights with people. I'm not really into that. But New Japan's gone pretty cold. So what was once a bit of a dreamscape of a pro wrestling pay-per-view is no longer that because New Japan doesn't really feel like it's currently got the crop of main eventers you want to see. You are dealing with the prior crop of main eventers who have already mostly wrestled the dream matches you want to watch. So that's gone. AEW itself is not that hot, so you're not seeing this two hot companies on a collision course, which, as I say, by 2022 was still something you could imagine, even if that wasn't the case in New Japan. The format has been abandoned enough that the main event was an all AEW world title match. So the format itself doesn't really feel as supported as it once did. All of these, were already conspiring to sort of undermine it before you get to something like the monthly pay-per-view cycle or the fact that it's just Forbidden Door in name rather than in nature. The fact that the TV build to some of these matches wasn't that strong. And whereas that used to be a feature, increasingly it's becoming a bug when we're super excited about Wembley, we're super excited about the Owen, a lot of stuff that kind of has nothing to do with Forbidden Door. I think all of that stuff did ultimately kind of do what it threatened to do, which was just work against the vibe of this event. And that's ignoring the stuff that Sidge had pointed out well in advance, the things like Long Island, and the potential threat of that crowd. The company that has the potential to put on match of the year candidates every week with the quality of this roster, did so in some cases. That's the nicest thing I can say about it. But again, we get onto this usual existential thing of, is it enough? What is enough? So many people want so many different things from All Elite Wrestling that you can't get one hive mind take. You can't get one sort of like group think on AEW anymore. And what you're left with is everybody having their own scattershot thoughts on it.
I've got one more take on this how many matches on a show thing. I thought they actually sequenced this one quite well, and in front of a hotter market, maybe they would have cracked it, but it's always going to be a problem. I just simply do not get the idea of I want as many matches as I can for my $50. I want as many matches that are going to get sustained, consistent heat throughout one show, throughout one experience. Like, you're not getting like these matches. You're not going to sell them on for a better price for you. It's not Walmart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not a value for money. And you're not selling these on for a more premium cost. They're matches in succession in one sitting that ideally you want each of them to reach their ceiling. And that gets increasingly more difficult the more matches there are on a show.
People are saying in the chat that you nailed it on the preview. Shouts to Jesse and Diamond Jim and Vic Strike chat. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Saying 7 to 8 matches is the sweet spot. When you're not calling for Triple H PLEs in comparison. There's
a happy medium, and there often is.
It's not really a fair comparison because obviously you prefer the output from AEW to WWE.
Yeah.
But people who might think, well, that's because you're Mr. Bean looking asses that sat there with matchsticks in your eyes at 2 a.m. in the morning going, I want this to be over as fast as possible. No.
I've watched wrestling on that.
We've lived the experience. We went to WrestleMania 35. If that show had ended with Kofi winning the title, you wouldn't have gone, not enough matches on this for me, would you?
No.
We've talked about it at length on podcast. The point people are probably bored of it. There is nout like watching wrestling in Las Vegas because you've got all of your night left when it finishes. Like that gets going so goddamn early. And it's a dream for us, Mr. Bean looking asses. And Double or Nothing felt baggy and overlong because it was a baggy and overlong show. It was nothing to do with the time of watching it. And I see that a lot, and I resent it a little bit because it's like, well, if anything, like I've done this for like nigh on 30 years, it actually makes me a bit more discerning, dickhead, because I am putting in the sacrifice and the effort to watch this. So that, I don't think it's a lazy take, but I personally see it as a bad one.
Do you know what the only thing I'd compare it to, and it's just, I've not actually said this, I don't think before, is when people say, when you stay up and you pay your money for like a big UFC pay-per-view, and people go, but yeah, I bet you're happy spending all that money just for Conor to knock out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. Well, if you can get it done in 13 seconds in that spectacular fashion, I'd rather that than 25 minutes of just them going out. Like, that's because you paid, different version of it.
You paid $50 to go and jump up in that one moment, and nobody ever. There's like it's a football thing for us. Is that late winner, whatever, boring? Like, well, the England game made a perfect example. If you were in the building, you don't regret whatever it cost you to be there in that stadium last night for that one moment.
Do if you leave.
Oh, yeah. But like that is actually that feeling is worth more than quantity.
15 matches,
in our opinion.
Yes. And I know the main card was 9, 10, maybe
10.
But people are now doing that thing where you're supposed to divide each match up into a dollar figure and have it. And people can think that. This is my point. Like, I think there is willful ignorance at play, but I'm trying to believe the people actually mean that and say, fine, if that's how you value your wrestling, more power to you. It's not how I value mine. The $100 ticket is paid off in 1 second of it. If you feel that, it's won and you will buy again.
Let's start at the beginning of the night, though. Hometown hero, MJF versus Hechicero.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed by this. And it's weird, like, this is one of those, you're never happy. Correct. This is what I want out of a pay-per-view opener in terms of the tone it's set, the length of time. This was pitched as a nice little back and forth that exists to unglue the crowd. Hometown guy comes out. He has this unique, striking match that doesn't outstay its welcome, and it serves to unglue the crowd. This crowd just, for a lot of it, didn't want to come unglued. The work was there, I guess. It didn't really do much for me. I really endorse the idea of AEW learning one lesson from this, and that is, let's have 10 minutes. 10 brisk, fat-free minutes with a nice little feel-good ending, and then, the crowd are up for it. But in terms of execution, I mean, this match just wasn't particularly great. It was solid. Yeah. It wasn't actively bad. it just felt incredibly inessential. And on the crowd as well, I was going to make a broad take on this because I don't want to talk about it every single match, even though it was a recurring theme throughout. It was like watching a tennis crowd where they will quietly observe quite a lot of it. And if there's a rally going, they'll go well crazier than you expect them to go. When there's a good rally, they're up for it. At virtually every other point, it's like just sitting there quietly observing it. And it was so weird in terms of the rhythm. It's not like the Japanese crowds, who are the best crowds of all time when they're at the hottest, where they quietly observe, they pay attention, they're polite, and then they get unglued, and then they make this just glorious cacophony. It was so weirdly patchy. It was a lot of matches, this one included, really struggled to just escalate into something wonderful.
Knowing what before I get your thoughts on it, knowing what you know now, would you have rather they put the Roosh match on tape?
Yes.
Yeah, it was impossible. Like, you couldn't hate this match, but it was impossible to love it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It didn't ask you to love it. It asked you to just watch it. Like, and MJF sort of told us that with that, how throwaway the name drop was on Wednesday's Dynamite. And that's off. Like, that is a strange way to sell a guy coming into his hometown venue, one of the biggest stars you've got in your company, having made the type of comeback.
Just returned as well.
Yeah, having made the type of comeback you've made at Double or Nothing, and to do this, and like almost like, I love MJF, and I think very little he does is by accident, and I felt like I was watching him wrestle this with a kind of knowing, it's a shaking off the cobwebs pape match for me, this, because like, it's not going to take away from the fact that he's going to do something massive at Wembley, because he's a massive homegrown star that should do something massive. But you kind of still have to stay massive. And you almost allowed his presence to be minimised here. Like, this was forgettable by design.
It was
I don't know, but competently worked. Like, nobody put a foot wrong in this. And yet, what was I watching, really, on a pay-per-view of a guy that's a massive star in his hometown?
Yeah.
Very...
It just struck me as very odd, this.
Yeah.
Very odd. I tell you what, good news...
Were people not happy with all of this? You know what I mean? The wrestlers, the bookers, there was something going wrong with Roosh, perhaps. How did we arrive at this?
I don't know. I have no idea. The good news, is if you want to look at this positively, is that nights like this, which really only serve to normalise MJF and potentially draw not unfair accusations that he didn't really care that much about making Hechicero in defeat or whatever, or making sure the last memory you get of him is better than the last one you saw, you know. Nights like this will draw him closer to a heel turn, and he is far better in a heel role.
Yeah. Not chasing the acclaim that he was accused of like last year at the expense of that heel character.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a formality of a result, a formality of a match. Let's get out of it. I'd noticed you're not going to be this babyface who has AEW tattooed on his calf to then do this at the first time you get a chance to do an AEW pay-per-view match, knowing what a cachet that has with the audience.
He just felt like, didn't he?
Yeah, it just felt like these are two different guys. The guy who returned at Double or Nothing was a different guy to who wrestled this match, and I don't know what the story was, if there is one. I've got no idea. I was just left a little bit underwhelmed and quite baffled by all of this. Didn't feel like the guy who's just got an AEW tattoo on his calf.
Yeah. Next up was the trios match, the Elite, Matthew Jackson, Nicholas Jackson, and Kazuchika Okada versus the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Along with this, I want to factor in an element of this, a question from Mark Lee Willis. The Cole references, is he back soon? What do you reckon?
Well, Kenny.
Adam Cole, I think. Or maybe Kenny.
Well,
Kenny Omega was teased.
Yeah.
I like
the pixelate in the face and the thing. I mean, that's really good.
That was nice, yeah.
/ Hangman Page was teased, along with the collision review. It's all happening.
What were the Cole teasers?
The kiss, the Young Bucks kiss, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. I guess.
Never actually put that together.
I didn't put that together, to be honest.
Sunrise that they hit.
Well, MJF.
Sorry,
hitting the sunrise, yeah.
Potentially. I don't know. All the reports I've heard about Adam Cole are that ankle is healing very slowly. I don't know. I popped on Twitter, as I always do, sadly, after this pay-per-view, and people were pissed at this match. I thought it was a nice bit of knockabout fun that worked perfectly as the second match on the show. Slightly frivolous. worked for laughs. You got a bit out of Okada Tanahashi. I told you on the preview that I'm so bored of the two people you want to see interact in this trios match are delaying that interaction until they finish. And I thought, I don't care. They're going to do it, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. They did it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know if they were trying to rewire people's brains about how a pay-per-view format should go. Brief opener just serves to unglue the crowd.
Yeah.
You don't have a main event match masquerading, an opening match masquerading as a main event one. And then the second match traditionally is just more knockabout fun. You don't get too serious with the stakes yet. That's the thing. Like, I think they sequenced this card.
I agree.
In a really astute way that had it played out in front of a hotter crowd would have worked to sort of like pace them that bit better. I thought this was fine. I had fun with it.
I don't disagree. I didn't go in with particularly high expectations, and the medium ones were met. I will say,
the daddy ass thing annoyed us immensely.
Well, Billy Gunn's here now, so he can get Okada. He'll solve this mess. Is there, when you say there was all this like negative feedback, has the worm has turned a little bit on Okada, and has he become like, who is AEW for at this point as well? The t-shirt says it's for the sickos. Tony Khan says sickos. Well, sickos would want Okada to just wrestle 5-star Okada matches every week, and they're not getting that. They're getting him saying bitch, and it's a bit of a boy popper, and if anything, you hold him back. I have a theory. We talked about this a bit over the desk this morning, because Murray doesn't particularly like this version of Okada. No. I was saying I think they have tried, they're doing the same thing with both Ospreay and Okada, which is almost delaying the gratification of the best in the world. The best in the world status for Will Ospreay is winning that world title. The best in the world status for Okada is just being the Rainmaker again. And they're the same thing, just different delays. Why bring them in and immediately, inadvertently, other one of them? You get both here. Mm-hmm. There will come a day where Okada will be the Rainmaker, and they can buy themselves however long they want in this run. But are people already a bit sick of like Okada the mean guy, Okada the guy that turns up to say bitch?
He brings me joy, and I get so love it.
Love it. Right? Yeah. I love it. But I think maybe here's where the sickos that feel so serviced by something like Collision for the matches, for the 15, like I'm getting my money's worth of 15 matches, they want Kazuchika Okada to give you a 35-minute New Japan epic, and they're not. They're getting this, and that's not hitting right by them, you know?
I get it.
Like, I don't personally feel it. I'm with you. I think there's a place.
I just find them very, very entertaining.
I think it helps AEW as a product. I think you want a bit of range. There is a time for Okada to be the wrestler Okada. This is actually new. This feels interesting to me.
He's interesting. He's funny. In a year's time, he'll be Kurt Angle.
But there's already people loudly talking about Fed writers in the room killing AEW again, and Okada's one of the characters that they're linking to that.
I get it, but I think it's just funny. He obviously enjoys doing it immensely.
Yeah. And I'm going anywhere, is he?
So he's not going anywhere. Yeah, he's signed at least a 3-year contract. I'd be amazed if it's less than 3 minimum. Yeah. This time next year, I'll be doing serious business.
I agree.
This served the card nicely.
Anyway, he's injured right now. What's the rush?
Yeah, I'm not even big on the storyline in which Okada's performing. But his individual performances I find funny. And look, this is a guy, right? What people need to remember about Kazuchika Okada is that he's got that Kenny Omega where he can just switch it on like a light switch. Yeah. We talked about that big time entrance. I was like, Kenny's wearing t-shirts a lot on Dynamite, and he's in the tag team division. Then he does that, the dancing broom girls and the 3 phases of the entrance music, and he looks like a star, and he does that face. Kazuchika Okada drew sort of similar accusations of, what's he doing? 2018 Balloon Okada, right? What does he do at Wrestle Kingdom 2019? He just puts the trunks back on and goes like that, and everyone's, Okada's back. Yeah. He will put, like, he'll wear that old colour scheme, like the purple and gold.
Yeah.
One night with gear and wrestle an Okada match, and everyone's going to be like, oh, he's back. It will be fine. Okada will be fine.
Next, Sige, a match you had very high expectations for. The Owen Hart Cup first round match between Bryan Danielson and Shingo Takagi.
Yes, I don't think I met those expectations, but my expectations were of a blow-away, great match of the year contender. This goes against my usual critique in the way in which we try and honestly assess pro wrestling matches. Did your soul get set alight? Did your insides feel like they were getting attacked by like themselves, and you're just absolutely buzzing and whooping, hollering, making these indecipherable noises and being a daft idiot in your living room? No. in a sense, I felt in my gut not much for this, and I don't think it clicked to that this is amazing level. And I found myself thinking about the match rather than feeling it. But the thinking I did, I think underscores the strength of this one. Like, Bryan Danielson, right, is almost beyond reproach in terms of critique. He's just that good. You have to really, 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 if you want to do this, reach for ways to critique this flawless genius of a pro wrestler. I would argue, and I think you feel this way, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that at times with the seizure selling, he can overdo it, and I don't believe that he's having a seizure or he's, in a fencing pose or whatever.
It has the reverse effect of the very simple stuff he does.
Yes, I think he can overdo it. Here, he's found a way, because he's a genius, to sell the story of maybe something's got pinched here, or he's suffered a stinger, or that neck isn't 100% after the Tiger Driver at Dynasty, because he's doing such an incredible job of incorporating the fact that he's lost a bit of strength in his arm, and on a work level, obviously. You'd hope they wouldn't clear him if that were the case. I thought he did a remarkably, incredible, subtle job of selling that type of injury. His selling in this match was world class. It didn't make for the most dynamic, explosive, I'm erect match, but I thought on a cerebral level, this was quite incredible.
Yeah, that's probably kinder than I would be to this, quite honestly. This was, really good. And that's... I feel
it's the AEW problem, innit?
I feel guilty saying it about
That's
Bryan
a Danielson problem.
Yeah, I feel guilty saying it about Bryan in particular, because I would have less of an issue saying that about a lot of the wrestlers we get on Dynamite each week. But there is something typically different that Danielson brings, and it wasn't there for me here, truthfully. And it's more of a shame because it was one of the true, pure Forbidden Door matches. Forbidden Dosage.
Just like you remember it.
If this was available to them in 2022, you would have thought, great, they're both called Dragon and Bryan's not injured. So you would go to this, and they've done it in a tournament, which I think is super helpful, because there weren't really stakes. You didn't believe Shingo was going to win, but this is part of Bryan's, this match is going to inform more than just a nice night. It's part of Bryan's journey to Wembley. And I just never felt that. And this is like wrestling. Bryan Danielson in this retirement run can be wrestling for wrestling's sake, because you're already aware that the booker is just giving him what he wants to do. So there's a reality element to all of these Bryan matches of just the guy gets what he wants, and nice, because there were lots of times in his career where he didn't. So that's cool, but this wasn't really what I wanted. I'm yet to believe that this man wants to win the world title, and he's in a world title tournament that could and theoretically should end at Wembley. And the matches aren't getting me there, but he could be telling a nice tournament story.
As he said in the media again recently, I don't want it.
Worst time to say it.
You're in the
worst time to say it. But this could be him telling a really great tournament story, of the body is breaking down. Tonight was the arm and a little bit the head and the neck. What's next? Are we getting a mummified Bryan Danielson by the time he makes the final when Nigel does the cruelest thing? Who knows? But if this is that, and you wouldn't put it past a Bryan Danielson, fantastic. And it becomes better as a opening round tournament match than what it was in an individual experience, because I just wasn't alive with joy over it, and it's just
I was listening to some really, really, really technically accomplished music. There's no real hooks to it.
Yeah,
there's no bombast, so skyscraping chorus, but there's some really great composition, and he can just sort of nod along. That was that, but a wrestling match. His selling was out of this world.
The women's world title match came next. Timeless Toni Storm.
Press the button for that.
Versus Mina Shirakawa, with Mariah May in, both corners, really, and very conflicted throughout.
I genuinely thought this was really, really good. And again, I've been crying out, and hopefully this trend continues, and they don't. I hope when they assess this pay-per-view and talk about it and its strengths, and hopefully the process in AEW as well, how can we make that thing even better, or how to do that thing that was probably fell short of expectations, but it was still a very good show or whatever, and think, how can we make it better? I hope they don't see these kind of shorter match lengths on this pay-per-view and think, it's not working because the crowd wasn't there. Because some matches do not need to go 15 minutes sometimes. This went, 11?
11:40, according to Wikipedia, 11:40. The Elite Trios match went 13 minutes. MJF Hechicero went less than 10.
This at 11, you didn't need 4 extraneous minutes packed onto this. This felt like really urgent. I tell you what, like I rate Tony.
I was about to, sorry, George, I was about to say, every match, you know, you often have said this, and I agree with you about like every match. You're like, like I'm looking at this card, I'm like, oh no, you know what? Zack Sabre Jr., Orange Cassidy, given that time, absolutely. Obviously, the ladder match gets 17 minutes. The trios match with the learning tree and what have you, just 13:25. Every match perfectly timed. And then I saw what just went just before the main event, but we'll get to that.
We will get to that, God damn it. 11 minutes or whatever, didn't need any more.
No.
There was an urgency to this. It didn't feel like they were just doing 15, 16, 17 for the sake of it. And I've always rated Toni Storm highly. I really have.
Yes.
Her 2.99 kickouts in this match were close to Okada, Roman, Kurt Angle tier. I thought so many times, are they strapping her up? Are they
Yeah.
This is really, really dramatic. The timing on everything was genuinely class. I thought this was excellent.
Yeah, the Tony, like it's either AEW the listening company or Toni Storm the listening wrestler, and maybe it's a bit of both. And great if so, because they over the last couple of months with this story, but with the last like couple of matches as well. Well, not the last couple because I like the Serena Deeb one probably underwhelmed a little bit, but Toni Storm within this story, I should say, as a wrestler, has I think finally put it all together in the timeless Toni Storm character. Because it was it was kind of undermining her matches to begin with, and the alignment at times has been tricky to pass, and then that does ultimately it does harm your emotional investment if you, or it can do if you're trying to like. She was just a really over character, portraying a heel sometimes and a babyface other times, and like in a company that has a bit of a tweener problem, that wasn't ideal. This story and her work of late just seems to have eradicated all of those minor gripes, and I say minor because like she's obviously become an even bigger star in this role and is quite vital to AEW's output at this point.
It's one of the most sustained heat matches on the entire show.
Yeah, like you get who she is. The work has reverted to the Toni Storm we kind of fell in love with in AEW for her matches, and she just put the character in with the in-ring perfectly at this point. And maybe it's this story that she needed, because the Mariah May stuff from the very beginning has been the most this timeless Toni Storm character made sense within a wrestling universe. And when you have somebody else in Mina Shirakawa who is an opponent that also makes it work.
She was really good individually as well.
Yeah. Like, she's really helped tether this Toni Storm character to a reality that I think was missing. And all three of them are in a way stronger position, and that's the best you can hope for from a story in a match like this. Like Toni Storm and Mariah May, when the day comes, are still in great health, but they might have just put like the perfect delay on it if they want to now.
Well, Mariah May, obviously, spoiler in case you haven't watched this, but you haven't watched the kickoff, won the Owen match with Saraya on the kickoff. I should mention that as well.
In Toni Storm's attire from Forbidden Door 2022, in part of her ongoing dressing as both and all that. Like, I love these three as a act that have become one now. I think I'm into it as babyface. I buy them and believe them and have come to love them on television. It's just they can just be babyface friends for a bit now. Yeah. Wrestling doesn't need to wrestle in itself and force the rivalry right now.
You're right. Toni Storm retained, and then we had a three-way kiss.
Oh my god!
Oh god, sorry.
What did he try and press?
You know that? Remember on MSN Messenger where it'd be like, "Mwah, someone sent you a kiss."
You wouldn't have had that.
Playing that a lot. Definitely not. But yeah, it's things bloody playing up again. But three-way
There's so many buttons on there that don't work at the moment.
Honestly, I'll get it looked at. Yeah. But I've got to say, to echo something you said there.
That's the most prominent button we press. Do you think it's just muscle memory?
Maybe. But I'll get it. I'll get it seen too. Whatever the issue is. But I have to say, Sige, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, love obviously being introduced to someone like Mina Shirakawa through AEW, and that sort of reminds me of someone who I never really had seen before AEW came along. And I'm not sure if I've said this to you before. It's a guy called AR Fox. Yeah. Have I mentioned that? Yeah. Okay.
A few times.
Let's talk ZSJ versus Orange Cassidy, Sige.
I thought this was about as good as I thought it was going to be in terms of the work. It told a similar story to that I projected. Zack Sabre Jr., a big New Japan name, really needed a win. And I'm glad that Orange Cassidy was the person to do that job. And I'm glad Zack Sabre Jr., it's just the next time he appears in AEW programming, it's surely theoretically anyway going to feel like a bigger deal.
G1 winner.
I think he's going to win the
You
G1.
said on the news.
He is talking himself up as the guy that wants to lead New Japan in the absence of everybody that did.
Yeah.
And their failure thus far to put somebody in one of those top
He'd
spots.
he'd be the person now.
Yeah.
Absolute. Him or Shingo.
He's put the work in as well, hasn't he? He's done the hard yards with this point. This is what, 7th or 8th G. He's done loads of them, and he's done everything asked of him in New Japan.
He didn't win on his first try.
I did. First try. This match was really, really, really good. Again, some of the work in the last 5 minutes was absolutely out of this world. A Zack Sabre Jr. match just gives you those palpitations. It's like hypnotic. That's my new word for a match that makes me not want to go on my smartphone, or that actually makes me feel like, that good to great match that's just most weeks now. There's a level now. And I'm going to start referring to it as either just bleed or hypnotic, depending on how much of an animal I feel when I watch it. Like the last 5 minutes of this were hypnotic I cannot possibly think about anything else in this moment other than that which I'm watching right now. Some of the work, the counters, the traps, all glorious. I think it was referee stoppage, which is maybe a bit lame. But then if the idea is I have to stop this match because this person has no adequate means of defending themselves, and if
every limb was taken down.
Exactly. If I let this go any longer, I'm being negligent and I'm not looking after the safety of the wrestler. This was the technical wrestling submission version of someone knocked unconscious, getting repeatedly punched in the head. This person can't defend themselves. They haven't submitted. They haven't been pinned to the mat, but this can't go on. It's over. This is the submission version of that. Every single limb that you cannot get out of it. Sorry, it's done.
It makes
you know what? This is probably, now that I talk myself into it, the best political reality finish of with these collaborations. Even before you talk about the respective fortunes of the company, interpromotional stuff is already inherently flawed, even if they're the most white hot companies on either side of the Pacific, and they're not by far, because you have to play political games. Otherwise, no one wins.
Got to disguise 50-50 booking.
Yeah.
As not 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. This is the perfect finish, now that I talked myself into it, for the show, the concept, the wrestlers involved, and the actual execution of the finish was out of this world. Again, it just had that tennis quality at certain points of, why aren't you making no noise?
Yeah.
I really, really like ZSJ because he's someone who, ever since full disclosure, I was really properly introduced to regular ZSJ matches when we had him in WCPW, because I just got to see them very luckily being a part of the show. And I think if you'd have said to me,
Wilborn bingo.
If you'd have said to me prior to that, do you want to see a wrestler who makes a wrestling match seem like a game of chess? And I said, not really, but it's a really...
Is this the only funny voices?
It's like you say, you're right. It's fascinating to watch him be
it's hypnotic.
There's that. Oh, you've got around those traps, but surprise, by doing that, you've left this vulnerable. Boom. And now I've got a weak spot. And now if I try to target that, then you're in trouble. But if you try and defend that, then something else will become more... It's just really...
Puzzle
amazing.
solver.
Yeah.
Every single match of his, he's like the Young Bucks, very different. Young Bucks of singles matches. It's like he's so interesting and so credible, and you have that hypnotic. If I lose sight of a limb here, I'm going to miss something, maybe even the finish. So it's urgency. I just think he's fantastic. And Orange Cassidy's technique was stellar here as well.
Brazilianaire in the chats wants your thoughts on Cassidy's darker gear and whether it signals a heel turn potentially.
This isn't the first time he's done it, and he has, considering he's a man that just wears jeans, he has used his gear before to tell little stories, and this is the second time now he's worn the darker denim.
Dark denim.
Not included when he just went all black with Danhausen, which but there is this, he's not the first person to sort of raise that as Orange Cassidy, trying to evolve a little bit and get a little bit more serious without completely betraying what makes the character work.
Yeah.
And I quite like that. I think a subtle evolution like that is the way to go with an Orange Cassidy if you're going to try and move him a little bit higher up the card. My match of the night. I love this. I absolutely love this. Orange Cassidy was always a sort of perfect Zack Sabre Jr. opponent in that one of the things that Zack Sabre Jr. never thinks about having to counter is somebody being so laissez-faire that they're not concerned about leaving an arm free. Like the European clutch with the hands in the pockets.
I mean, that was incredible as well, because it's always the rap on Cassidy is, some asshole puts his hands in his pockets and he doesn't care. It's like, if you put your hands in your pockets and grip that inside pocket, you can't get them out.
How's he getting them?
How's he getting his hands? It was genius, that spot.
And there was so much to Orange Cassidy's defense that became offense against Zack Sabre Jr. because when he's reaching for a limb, a leg or an arm, typically the person is trying to stop him and move it away from him. And he knows that. He's playing chess. So as they move it one way, he's thinking, well, when they move it on, they're going to free up that arm and that leg.
Yeah.
And that's how he does it. That's it's body shape and it's all that sort of stuff. Because Cassidy didn't counter like that, because he didn't panic, it was asking something different of Zack Sabre Jr. And it was almost like sort of, it's like when you pivot suddenly to watching Lucha and they're not working the left, they're working the right. And you're like, why is this weird? And your brain's gone for a second. And Orange Cassidy forcing that out of Zack Sabre Jr. was just really fascinating to watch in the first half of the match. And then, when you saw them go up the gears into the second half of the match and then watching Cassidy counter Zack Sabre Jr.
Level up.
I've got it as well. And like Brett would do that. Brett would fool you into thinking the guy you're watching was actually just as good a technical wrestler as he was. And it was like, count the Hitman. And then all it was is because Brett was able to put himself over and like, well, I've got a counter for your counter. And it was such a joy as a kid to watch that. I didn't realise Crush could go, in fact. Because he's just grabbed Brett's leg for a second and like, he's a technical wizard too. Why didn't you do it against Doink? But no, it was just like it was that bit of Zack Sabre Jr. brilliance, meshing perfectly with what Orange Cassidy offers all the time. And to lose in the way he did, again, you're right, Sidge, there's definitely politics here. But a really... regardless of the politics and maybe how they presented the finish, this was a selfless job done by an AEW original against a New Japan hot prospect on a night when, New Japan is supposed to still feel like it's putting in...
New Japan?
Yeah, just as much as AEW into this, and it doesn't really. And in this match, and probably this match alone, it actually felt like a heated rivalry between the two top companies. I love this.
Let's move on to the learning tree. Chris Jericho.
Skip.
Big Bill and Jeff Cobb versus Samoa Joe Hook and Katsuyori Shibata.
Walking away a bit was cute, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Done it now. Done it
it better on the preview.
I mean, there was some cute moments here. And
But they're enjoying Joe being the excited dad, aren't they? They like that bit.
Yeah.
So
I like the dynamic and the interplay between the baby faces. I was talking before about my new phrase, hypnotic. I'm going to use that one a lot going forward. Get used to that. This was, I watched this on my phone, actually. And I paused it a few times to check, transfer rumors and stuff like that. Jericho. I mean, that, to be honest, right, I know it sounds like ridiculous critique. That is, we have phones surgically attached to our hands nowadays, and it's a problem that pro wrestling in the home entertainment world has probably never faced, until the last however many years. It's as good a barometer thing in a match as any. How often do I want to go on my phone during this?
Different than competing with other TV shows that wrestling always says it has to worry about. It's the same, isn't it?
It's just another... How many times do I want to go on my phone during this? And quite frankly, I just was I'm watching on my phone. Turn it horizontal. I just don't give a toss. There could be absolutely spellbinding action when there's a character as brutally overexposed as Chris Jericho with his nakedly transparent, I want to remain relevant. I can't be arsed.
Absolute remedial, kindergarten level wrestler politics from Chris Jericho to have the hook Fued, win the belt, take the belt, kill the feud, bring the feud back to life just to do one meaningless tag job in the mid-card that nobody will remember.
And then get more TV time subsequent to Hook after the fact.
That is proper, hey guys, haven't I done the right thing? And everybody's going, no, and don't even try and don't work me, bro. Don't like me.
Hook hit him with the Judas effect.
It's just that it is the
Eddie Kingston won in the end.
Basement level wrestler politics, that is.
Mm-hmm. Everyone sees through it now.
Yep.
Nice to see Jeff Cobb again. Always great to see him in an AEW ring.
Yeah.
I guess.
Let's talk about the ladder match. TNT Championship was vacant, of course. First of all, get well soon to Leo Rush. We reported in the news that he suffered an injury. Hopefully, I don't think it sounds too serious because I know he hasn't said like, "I'm going to be out for ages." He is just missing a booking, I think, on a show like later on this week, basically. So get well soon.
Yeah, get well.
Also, fingers crossed. There was a split second when I thought it's happened again to Dante Martin. And
Good work, that.
Yeah,
He's good.
I felt sick. And I was like, oh, God.
It was Mark Briscoe I was most worried about. He did the Copeland ankle bump.
Yeah, I don't want to worry. He just came up a little short. He evidently wasn't worried about himself in this match.
Oh my God, Mark Briscoe in this match.
I'll just run through the rest of the competitors. El Fantasmo, of course. Mark Briscoe, as you've mentioned. Super over Konosuke Takeshita. And the eventual winner, new TNT champion, Scapegoat Jack Perry.
I had loads of fun with this, and then when it finished, it just will. I know for a fact it won't stay with me that much. It's another 4-star ladder match. But my God, like the ultimate. You feel guilty for not saying this was a match of the year because of the graft they put in. It's absolutely outrageous. Konosuke Takeshita just looked like a killer all over again. Like Mark Briscoe's dive onto the ladder, onto Takeshita, was
yes.
it? Absolutely unhinged, demented. That got us, a semi. That got the just bleed feeling. Ultimately, still like a little bit of flab to this, a tiny little bit. And, it's one of those where if they just didn't do anything involving a ladder for a year, this match would have kicked even more ass than it did. Through absolutely zero fault of the wrestlers, this was just another great ladder match. Good storytelling. Like, you want to feel something for the characters and or see that they've got a way out rather than just being bodies, talented bodies to do spots. Like Takeshita just looked like someone they could plug into the main event at any point after this match. He was really well portrayed here. Mark Briscoe just felt like someone that you want the world for and all the risks that he takes.
I remember that people are saying in the chat, Josh Matlock says that Mark dive onto Takeshita through the table with a ladder on top scared me.
Yeah.
Brazilian just says Blue Thunder bomb spot OMG.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Jeremiah DRZA says Takeshita is a freak of nature.
He's a magnificent beast. He's a magnificent beast.
Who was the spot with when Briscoe and the ladder wasn't really playing ball? It was sort of like half broken already.
Did I take again?
Yeah.
I thought it was, yeah. He's like, well, we're doing it, whatever happens here.
And you, not that you should, because it's super dangerous, but if it were real, I'm in the process of kicking this guy's ass, so I'm not going to let a bust prop get in the way of that. Yeah. Can I just shock you? I really enjoy multi-person ladder matches, and I don't know how this has happened. I thought
Don't say it.
I thought the WrestleMania one was a surprise package. Like, not just for R-Truth and The Miz getting them. I know it's really good. Like, really, really well-structured insanity. FTR and the Young Bucks is, oh my God.
Oh my God.
I know
CPR as a match.
I know Sid hated it, but I like the Battleground one. I am earnestly looking forward to Money in the Bank this weekend, and I love this as an experience. I didn't think I could still love ladder matches, and they're sort of.
He's got Money in the Bank in the long views. He's like, I have to say I like ladder matches now, otherwise I'll draw accusations of bias.
Or I could just say I thought it was.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Loved it. Like again, it is about they're still all about construction, and they're still how invested you are in the wrestlers plays such a big part in that, because ultimately if you're just watching a parade of very neatly arranged spots, you might not feel what you're supposed to.
But I'm in love with Mark Briscoe, which helped an enormous deal.
There's a Mark Briscoe there. There's the inevitable wait for Jack Perry to steal it, which was actually fun, like good, predictable.
Yes,
this bastard's going to get it, but how can they delay it and make it entertaining? I thought that was it was a success on those terms and those terms alone. The one thing I've already tweeted it today. Sid, you've got a better memory for AEW for me. I felt like this was as close to a protest vote as I can ever remember for a reaction for a wrestler in this. The level of Takeshita's climbing the ladder.
We don't care who's a heel.
Don't care who's a heel. This was I was going to say Daniel Bryan, but 100 WWE wrestlers over 20 years. Has this ever happened in AEW before, where it was so pronounced that character dynamics, story, all of it went out the window? It was just, I felt like this was a very prominent. He should have been pushed twice over by now, and he's still stuck here not winning this match. I can't remember a reaction like that for a guy so far removed from his own story.
Yeah. I can't think of one either. I'm sure there's been... They've told Cody over and over and over again, please turn heel.
Yes, of course.
They did that. So it's on that level.
Like a babyface, like trying to force the Booker's hand almost to just push him and just let us be in love with him. I can't think of anyone yet that has generated that kind of response.
The Acclaimed. They weren't
the
heels, but it was weird. Like they must have, like Tony Khan must have anticipated at All Out 2022 that the Acclaimed are going to get really over on this.
We went in going, this will be a fun tag title defense.
I went in there thinking it's going to be the match on the card with a lull
that dies, yeah. And then people want an audible.
I was never been happy to be more completely wrong. It felt like an audible.
It was just, I don't know, like all the built-up frustration felt like it was coming out here. Like this is the man that beat Kenny Omega and got nothing out of it realistically. This is the man that was turned heel despite being a beloved babyface. This is the man that like wrestles. It makes it feel the most fake because his matches make you feel the most alive inside, and yet he never wins. And you're like, well, I don't care that he's not winning. Like,
on another level, not to simplify takes, I do think there is that discontent to a degree with Takeshita, but on a very primal level, he just looks so good at kicking ass. Yeah. He just looks so good at kicking ass. I think there is a protest. There's very much we don't want to see him as a heel. But when you're in that moment, he just looks so stylish and powerful kicking ass. But no, I agree with you. It's very much, he's awesome. Why would I want to ever boo him?
And I want to see him win. I want to back a winner. I'm sick of backing him into another defeat.
Yeah.
Like that. The G1's perfect because he's going to, I don't think he's going to win or do whatever. He's going to kick ass.
I think we'll see about this.
Well, he'll kick ass. I think he's going to have a good G1 in-ring wise. No, you think he's going to phone it in?
He's not going to phone it in.
No, he's just not going to win lots.
He's just not going to win lots.
No,
I think people will be very surprised at how many matches he loses.
But I think it's a nice break in terms of his constant sort of like middling run in AEW to disappear for a bit, to come back hot and start again or divorce himself from the Callis family and be like, right, G1's happened, fresh start. Starting that real quiz here. Like, I'd like that for him.
It's funny as a babyface as well.
He's got it all.
Yeah.
Winner takes all match, AEW TBS Championship, New Japan Strong Women's Championship, Mercedes Mone versus someone who's gained a lot of fans this weekend, I sense, Stephanie Vaquer.
Yeah. Individually, she outshined Mone to a quite remarkable extent. I thought in the first half of the match, they eventually clicked. I was really impressed with Vaquer in this match, like more than I was with Mercedes Mone, quite frankly. That spot she does when she drives someone's head into the canvas repeatedly between her thighs is just, it looks like how's your nose not getting broke there? Like a really well worked sequence there. And she did a dragon screw here. I was like, right, that's your ACL, your meniscus, all of it's gone at once. That's when Money was like, oh, good, she's finally turning it on. The whole thing was there something to do with like someone in the front row was very obviously a Boston Celtics fan making a spectacle of themselves, and then the crowd sort of collectively realized she's from Boston, we must boo her. Because it didn't really seem to happen until the final third of the match.
There was definitely a trigger. I didn't know about the fan in the crowd, but there was certainly a point where the fans were like, we're going to make this about local sports.
I think it was a fan in the crowd.
I was going to say it was hard for them to get back. I'm not really sure they did. I think Mercedes Mone just took it and went with it as a, like the heel that hides underneath the babyface facade is now being permitted to just be the heel.
She smiled a bit and was like, all right, okay, let's go. Okay, let's go.
I quite enjoyed her on that level, actually, just taking it, and because we know she can.
So yeah, what's coming,
Yes, and she has to as well.
And they've lined up the ultimate baby face, after the fact.
Jeremiah, you are right. Stephanie deserves a...
Oh my God.
Yeah, that dragon screw was unbelievable. It's my favourite move in wrestling, Have I told you this? Heard about this?
Do you want to talk match or post-match?
The post-match to me was one of the most exciting elements of the show, truth be told. It's a dream match.
So yes, the Mercedes won, as we anticipated that she would. She wins both belts, and she's there. She's holding both of them up, and everyone's cheering for. I've got to do this now, because otherwise my brain's going to hurt, and it's going to be wrong. Mercedes.
Money.
Beginning.
Money.
Is there celebrating when whose music should hit. But Britt Baker, she returns. She walks out on the stage. They don't go nose to nose, but she is going to be on Dynamite. So we're going to sort of try and split this somewhat in terms of like what we're hoping to see going forward. We'll talk on the preview, of course, but yeah, instant reaction to this.
Nailed it. I thought, I wanted to see her rush the ring, and they've held back on that. So it's like they've given you everything you would need for this night without, again, giving away even the most basic of, she didn't even hit the ring yet. They've not even come nose to nose for that visual. AEW has a like, it's strange now. 5 years in, we are definitely at the point where like AEW originals or people that just feel like part of the company's DNA can hit different and can feel like they became stars on their own terms before AEW grew and expanded in ways that not everybody has loved. So there is a real authenticity to Britt Baker versus Mercedes Mone in like a sort of old versus new AEW. What was AEW versus what is AEW now? I think there's genuine conversations to be had over there, being realistic about the match quality, but it just felt like you're in the presence of two massive stars. And there's now, like it in wrestling, of just like fantasy booking, two stars wrestling each other. And as long as the dynamic isn't a total clash, and I have no worries about that with these two, like it can't not feel huge.
I'm going to be slightly cynical here, and I'll hold my hands up if it's a lot better than I think. I thought on the night, I mean, this is piece of piss stuff, this.
Yeah.
You get Star.
And Hamflet loved it.
Yeah. You get a star who hasn't been on telly for a long time. All you do is just dial up the volume knob on that pop. They did it. They didn't. This is like a Triple H NXT angle, except hopefully it's just the start of something. Mm-hmm. Not the thing that sets up the match next
Not the go home.
Not the go home, I worry that this storyline, given what I sense of Tony Khan's mindset and where he's at, and he's like digging his heels in, and to be AEW is to be constantly under attack. And I really hope this isn't too heavy on the I built this place AEW. I am AEW. I built this women's division. I built it so that you can walk in and you're not from AEW. And I just really hope it's a program, a story between two characters, and there's not too much chat about AEW. This is ultimately a title program between two big star wrestlers. I just don't want AEW. I just get the feeling that this fictionalized entity that is AEW, and I just get there's going to be a lot of chat about it, I suspect, during this build, and I really hope that isn't too much the case.
Wemba?
It obviously has to play a part. If you, obviously
Wemba.
it's Wemba. Yeah. If you can't not tell this story between these two characters without at least mentioning, without Britt once mentioning, you're welcome, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But don't make it the entire premise.
You're right.
Make the entire premise DMD CEO.
I'd rather that.
But no, I'm with you. Well,
Someone's letters have got to go.
Britt Baker hasn't had the world title for ages, and why should she be afraid of Mercedes Mone? That's I believe I'm every bit as good as you are, and I'll prove it the proper.
Telling you now, man. Not touching
Fight for the
best
soul of
matches.
AEW.
I don't want to see that. Not touching makes the best programs, and going away for a while is the best way of getting over. And the best means of getting over on episodic TV is by not appearing on episodic TV. I've told people who will listen for years that the medium itself is flawed. Can you remember, because it's only just occurred to me now, how many jobs Britt Baker did towards the end of her run? She seemed to lose every single week, even in like tags.
Yeah.
In trios, she was taking. I was like, why are you beating her so much? I know Brian Alvarez was like apoplectic on a weekly basis about this. That did not enter my mind when I watched the segment.
No. And as well,
Or looked ahead to All In.
and what AEW have here as well is they've got realistically like the big stars fighting each other. The not so dirty little secret is that the better match is Jamie Hayter, isn't it? Hayter and Mercedes.
Oh my God, of course it is.
Unbelievable chemistry as opposed to this, which is more about the stars colliding.
Yeah.
Like, which is great because then you got two matches, a second match. But that's how it should be, really. There's always something else as well there.
So I will circle back into the chat and answer all your questions when we get to the end of this. I want to give a nod to a few people. Mr. Phoenix, who says, I give AEW a lot of stick, but every now and again they introduce me to someone cool. Last night that was Stephanie Vaquer. Hope I see more of her. And Drew C says, has the 6-month clock started for AEW's women's division being good, or should I start it now? 3 matches on Collision, but still only 1 on Dynamite.
The characters feel like they're there.
Yeah.
There are stories that are connecting. The in-ring has been elevated quite strongly this year and emphasized. It's as good as they want it to be at this point. They could make this thing really special, and I hope the reaction to Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa on this show, it's one of those. In a perfect world, it's not like forcing it anymore, in my opinion. Like if you look at the amount, like Willow Nightingale,
exactly. You and I could list people or storylines easily that would justify that you can't just go one on Rampage, one on Collision, one on Dark.
Yeah, if you look at the rise of Willow Nightingale, the smash success realistically of this Tony Storm character and this recent story, it's how much they want it to be great. Because in a perfect world, a meritocracy, like Chris Jericho ain't on this program for about 6 months and his segments are replaced by these.
A lot of the actual feuds in the stories are stronger in the women's division at the moment. There aren't too many in the men's division that are on par with something like Tony and Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa in terms of like booking to a match, to a follow-up, to a big match down the line. There's like short and long-term storytelling there. Same with Nightingale and Statlander leading up to that turn, how it folded in Mercedes Money. It's the best year AEW we've ever had in this division, but it's for the proper stuff as well, isn't it? It's not just for the representation or like the illusion of parity. The quality is there as well.
Let's move on to the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. And here you're much older.
So bored.
John Moxley, Tetsuya Naito, and I can only echo the wonderful OG Stem Cells comment, who says, I fell asleep during the Moxley match. The shows are too long. Swerve goated, though. Full disclosure, fell asleep during this match.
This was a turkey. This was a stinker.
Is real bad, this.
I'd 17 minutes.
Ooh. 17 minutes of...
Is it going to beat Joe Punk?
Oh, I reckon he'll go 3.5.
Yeah,
I reckon
score draw.
It'll be the polite political.
Yeah.
Aye. This match, honestly, was so tepid. Like methodical John Moxley is a direction I'm not into. What I loved about John Moxley was that, like in 2022, he felt like an animal.
Danger.
Danger. He had aura. I know that word has been bastardized. It's a meme at this point. He actually had it. He felt dangerous. He was like one of the few wrestlers I used to be so mesmerized by his ability to not do that relentless finisher attempt, signature attempt, counter. He had a different rhythm to his structures, different pacing. It felt like at times he just might go 10 minutes. I mean, he didn't, but it felt like it could, and that was the huge distinction. Now that's just this autopilot, dour, hard man, working quite frankly methodical matches. It's a bit in this match where, like, you know, when he's getting woken up, I didn't expect you to do something that cool. When Naito done an inside-out imploding bump from a lariat, and Moxie put some sauce behind it. It's like, he did something. Jesus Christ, he did something there. Like, he got, I would say, that spot, and then these two, and then one other glimmer of, I'll give you that. And a smile slowly crept on my face when Naito hit him with, like, what looked like a pool noodle.
Yes.
We just started hitting him with it. Like, he had a bit of a smile on his face.
A barricade protected him on it, yeah.
Otherwise, this was so drab, tepid. Like, they could not work together to maneuver Naito into that Destino towards the finish for love nor money. It felt like it was falling apart. It was like, just end this now, for God's sake. And then and Hamford's got the take on this finish.
It was very rubbish. You could not get away from the transparent politics at play, and we're not even talking. Well, there's the opposite, isn't it? Orange Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr. Such an elegant solution. Like, I don't know if this is New Japan AEW politics or speculation on my part. All of this, I don't know if this is John Moxley politics, because I feel like I've seen evidence of that elsewhere beyond Forbidden Door. This was like, honestly, if this was a Chris Jericho match, people would be burying him 6 foot deep and again begging for him not to appear on a pay-per-view, not to be on a Dynamite. It's typical Jericho. Like, and ultimately it's the sort of stuff that...
Moxley's just we don't know these people.
No.
But he seems like a nicer sounder bloke.
Yeah, he's beloved and deservedly so, and understandably so, and all these good things. I know, like, I've not been on him for a while, but I couldn't have loved the wrestler more at various points in his career. As a grown-ass adult as well.
Yeah.
Like, you love Moxley as much as you loved your favourite wrestler as a kid in 2020. But yeah, I think there are certain wrestlers that if they'd have performed here or it had played out in their match, we'd have never heard the end of it as criticism towards them. As, there they are again, typical this, typical that. because from the very beginning, the announcers were laying it on thick about the DQ, and you're like, right, what's going on here? Like, they're fair enough that it's going to be fought under New Japan rules, but that's taken as read, right? It's for the IWGP title. Why are we being reminded, oh, he's not going to job by DQ, is he? And it's like, no, he's not, but they're going to fly as close to the sun as they can on that one in order to make it look like, if it wasn't for that bloody red shoes, Jon Moxley would be allowed to, what? Lose the belt by DQ by using a chair, you fucking idiot. Like, he's actually trying to save you from yourself here, but it's being presented instead as this mishmash of, get out of the bloody way, ref, I'm trying to just be the hardest guy in the world, as usual. And that leads to, like, not indirectly, leads to that mess of a counter reversal sequence, because, like, the Destino can't put him away until it does. And, you know, he's giving him a finisher kick out, kind of, but not really. Like, this was a political minefield playing out in front of us. Whether or not it was just company politics or wrestler politics, I don't know. They had woeful chemistry when they've had far better matches in the past, which makes you think there was something more to this one, because they've shown that they can do stuff together.
Naito has looked as finished as he did here more than once this year.
Yeah.
And last year, actually. So it might be a Naito thing, to be completely honest.
Yeah, possibly. And it does, but it finds the Moxley character at the least interesting it's ever been to. So it was a confluence of factors here, realistically. I like, everyone's saying it. Like, we were kind of the first guys to say maybe the BCC are terrible, actually.
Yeah.
And, like, I've been kind of on Jon Moxley's case as a character for a while. Like, I feel like this was the night that a lot of people woke up to that, and I don't get a lot of
saying this similar in the chat.
I don't get a lot of joy out of it, but I do feel like if you listen, you're watching us, we've been on this one for a bit, and there was going to be a reckoning of sorts, and it was here.
You know, before we get to the main event, I've got one more take on this, right? I don't want to say that I'm like some kind of oracle who foresaw the events of Brawl Out, but I looked at some of Punk's demeanor up to that press conference where I was like, well, he's been a good heel here because he's just so mischievous. He's got this sort of vile attitude.
Pissed off.
Something's happening here. And I sensed at the time, like, there's something about the CM Punk character at the minute. And, you know, lo and behold, Moxley's booking and demeanor throughout the past 12 months, put it this way, right? And he could be happy as Larry and just wants to do this, that dour, hard man, which is so boring to me at the minute. This is one of those deals where if you look at his demeanor and you factor in also the booking, if there's a story that drops the next 2 weeks of, Moxley is not happy in AEW, he hasn't been happy in quite some time, there's talk of him potentially reassessing his future and blah, 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 and it's this big, long, I'll be like, of course, feels like there's some kind of story lurking underneath all of this, because I mean, it's just so odd. Like, I know he wants to be protected, and I know, like, as a good wrestler should, but like this, why did the BCC beat FTR at Revolution? Remember the crack when Brian and Dave had their famous argument about all wrestling logic is stupid, and Alvarez was like apoplectic and all the rest of it. And Meltzer's point at the time was, well, they're going to get a title shot down the line, but you build 2 matches in effect to do the tournament, and then the winner of that faces the BCC. And no, I think Moxley just wanted to win. You know what I mean? Whether it's deserved or otherwise, the booking patterns would indicate that Jon Moxley doesn't really want to do jobs, and that he's not as engaged. He doesn't feel as dialed in. And remember the "Give Me the Ball" promo? Can you imagine him cutting that now? It doesn't feel like a man who wants the ball. It feels like a man who just wants a series of small victories when he can get them. And with AEW, everyone seems to get what they want, so he gets them when he wants. I know he's the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, so it doesn't really work, but he just seems to want to get a lot of small wins. Just to, like, tide himself over. It doesn't feel like it's a happy relationship between Mox and AEW one bit.
The match was fabulous, but he beat Orange Cassidy, and obviously things went a bit awry because of injuries and the like, but the goal ultimately was just to get the belt back on Orange Cassidy, and like that international title reign really meant something. And it's like, in hindsight, Orange Cassidy possibly should have gone over there, and instead it was just another night where, like, Moxley kind of is indestructible. And I don't know, I don't think he's... I used to say it about Cody, I think, when people were calling for him to do more jobs, and it was like, no, you have to understand.
Yeah.
The jobs have got to have value. You've got to win a lot more than you lose when you're someone like a Cody Rhodes. Moxley is in that position, but there have been multiple times where everybody has called for defeat. Yeah. And in a lot of cases, it's tagged, so he doesn't even need to be on losing. He can just be on the losing side, and it doesn't happen.
The medium is flawed. Very quickly before the main event, which you're going to be really happy about, right? Consider Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho. As I understand it, they're actually mates, but you can't see that.
They got those like nice deals when the company was in a bit of disarray, and it was like, we need leaders.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Yeah, very clever. Yeah. Very, very clever. You look at Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho, and despite apparently being mates, you know, you can't get two different characters, what they want to do with pro wrestling. I mean, you've got the Death Jitsu guy versus it should all be sports entertainment and, you know, all the rest of it. Chris Jericho pretty much loses. I know there's losing and then there's losing. I know there's two different kinds of losing, but, you know, ostensibly he'll do a job. Jon Moxley doesn't want to do that.
No.
People actually seem to like and appreciate Jon Moxley. People don't. Chris Jericho for, you know, the rumors and the reports and the illusions about what he's done and the fact that he just seems like a transparent carny and all the rest of it. You never get that out of Jon Moxley. And one wins all the time, one loses. One seems sound, one doesn't. But they've both been around for too long in one promotion. There's an element of that with the Bucks. I find the Bucks more entertaining than these two, but it's a diminished return of the 2021 run. That's what it is. Pro wrestling is a medium. Episodic TV is flawed. Thank you.
Well, Moxley's one of the bigger names that would be like a significant of the times jump, wouldn't he? Like the guy that did that Jericho podcast and then returns, and you get the Shield, and it's like you really didn't think you would ever see Moxley go back. He loves his life in wrestling too much to do it.
If he comes back now,
like
his credibility won't get harmed, because it's like, how many times did he name drop Levesque on that podcast? He said, like, he basically alluded, he did this, but that's Triple H for you. It's all Vince, all Vince, all Vince, all Vince. And Vince is gone. So Mox can go back, if he would ever do it, with his head held high.
$1 zillion Shield matches.
Yeah,
and
I came back into a different time. Yeah. It just doesn't, the vibes are off between Mox and AEW right now, and this match just sort of crystallized it for me.
And my theory about Agent Ambrose would be completely vindicated.
It's been 5 years, man.
Playing the long game.
Fire.
Playing the long game.
Right, that's it. I want 5 more years of Jon Moxley straight singles wins. No feuds. That's it.
Let's talk main event, Sid. Swerve versus Ospreay. Obviously, by far the longest match on the card, and just
earned every second of it.
Yeah.
Earned every single second of it, where very few do increasingly. And this felt like the main event. It felt like Swerve Strickland has become the diamond. Swerve Strickland, I think the cynicism, apprehension and criticism of Swerve in the very early part of his reign remains warranted. This is not one of those situations where it's like AEW and Swerve got it right from day one and you just didn't notice it. Like, he's done what a world champion should do. He did last night, and he's done with his funny promos and his good personal promos over the past few weeks. He's done what a world champion needs to do. And it's so hard to do as well.
Give me the ball.
It's give me the ball. So I will be better this week than I was the last. It's like the anti-Jon Moxley. Moxley's, I know we're piling on him, but there's been a regression there with Moxley. There's been how much does he still want it? How good are you still really? Swerve is the new Moxley in the respect of, I'll be better every single week. Last week, I'll be better the next week. He's doing that world champion thing. And this match was very much that. I thought, like, I just didn't want Ospreay to win. I thought Swerve was equally as good in this match. He just carried himself like a true main eventer. He's been legitimized now. He's earned it at long last. There was spots in here that were absolutely out of this world believable, as you'd expect. Like the double knees, when if you just notice, Ospreay just jumps. I wish they hadn't replayed it quite so often.
I was going to flag it for the same reason, because it's all kind of all you look at is the little hop.
Yeah, he does that little hop.
But that's the art of it in the moment.
That's the art.
You didn't see it.
Compare that hop to Austin Theory jumping up from the stunner into the RKO. I mean, there's levels.
Oh, yeah.
There's levels, bruv. This was electrifying. I thought the selling in here was really, really good. It was a little bit slower and a little bit less flashy than I thought, but that's true. Substantial main event drama. I could have done without the Don Callis carry on, but I think I'd made my peace with it before the finish.
Yeah.
Does that drive generous hand wave criticism? Potentially. But I didn't, even with the machinations of the finish, I didn't leave that match thinking that Swerve was some paper champion. I just thought, that's just an AEW thing. Can Swerve appear to be the man in spite of that kind of corny stuff in the last 3-5 minutes? Yes, and he did. This was a necessary, worthy main event. I don't know if I even have it in my top 5 matches of the year, but certainly top 10. And I just love Swerve. He's really, really become the champion. He's my champion now.
Oh my God.
I feel like I should have.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I thought this was like stunningly worked and agented. This was the match that both of them needed. Like we've used, I think the Ray Phoenix one, but there's another example that's escaped my mind at this point. One of the Collision ones.
Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Just fall.
Is that thing we were initially predicted, were then proved completely wrong, but was it turned out we weren't as wrong as we thought? And is the Ospreay thing, like everything else, going to get swallowed up by formula, by episodic television, by the repetitiveness, all that sort of stuff? There was this worry starting to creep in right at the time, fortuitously, that Swerve is just, again, give me the ball. He's found himself. You sense that he's forced so much more of himself onto this product, perhaps as a result of getting kind of pied in that first Dynamite after he won the belt. Maybe he heard the criticism / felt it himself and thought, I'm not going to stand for this. And he's fought for it, maybe.
He's notoriously a receipt keeper. I think he does it too much. Like on Twitter, he's like, "Oh, you didn't believe in me? Well, you should have." This person, I think he does that too much.
Yeah,
but he's got that champion mentality.
Is the motivator in wrestling, isn't it?
He's got that champion's mentality. We saw it with Jude Bellingham last night. Keep talking.
Who else? Yeah.
Keep talking. Keep chirping. I'll prove you wrong. Like, I hate the cliche because wrestlers regurgitate it so often. He's got the chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
No, I'm better than. Don't doubt me. Like, how dare you? I love that. I love that about him.
I was very much relieved with the finish, with the screwdriver spot, and then subsequently the finish. That it felt like there was sufficient gap that it wasn't too. Because my big concern, the moment it started happening, I was like, and I was immediately thinking of you and how you were going is the melodrama going to overshadow this? But it felt not self-contained enough to not.
If they had to do it, there's worse ways they could have done it.
Yeah, it like
if you're Will Ospreay though, the nearest opportunity. Tell Don Callis. Obviously, we're not mates anymore. I'm barely in your stable. Let's just end this. And then he can get his ass kicked or whatever. Do not do the carry on of, I'm in the stable or not, bruv. I don't know what to think. Stop it. Stop doing that. They are not together. Don't insult me with the notion that there might be some kind of relationship between Callis and Ospreay that can be saved. Get on with this story now.
Keep Ospreay. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Keep Ospreay as the intelligent babyface. But he's a good guy, so he should at least not. He should be protected by his booking as to not be so stupid as to not see this turn coming, having been part of the Callis family and been in Callis's orbit for such a long time. The match, just from the way it was worked, I think Ospreay needed one with a little bit less Ospreayness, and this had it.
Yeah,
it didn't. It didn't.
It's quite an elegant performance from him.
It didn't. It's the Family Guy thing that you were saying a little while ago. It didn't insist upon itself with all the Ospreay tropes towards the end. It was more.
I think he realised Swerve needs to be the guy.
Yeah, dial it back. Let Swerve shine, and it can still benefit you. And I say let Swerve shine like he couldn't do it himself. But do you know what I mean? Stop this from accidentally becoming a big Ospreay bombs match by the end. And because they never did that, it was 10 times better for it. There's a class night in the future where Ospreay becomes world champion, or an even better rematch than this one. But I think this was the exact right match at the exact right time for these exact wrestlers where they're at in AEW. Yeah. There will no longer be the Swerve is a paper champion as long as he's in the same company as Will Ospreay. And whether fiction or reality, this match helped kind of complete that little puzzle that I think they were trying to solve. I wanted Swerve to win here. I still think the booking knacked this a little bit, because I would have loved to go in this genuinely thinking Ospreay was going to win, and I didn't. But I was rooting for Swerve, and I'm rooting for him at Wembley. I don't care who he faces. I don't really want this title reign to end. So they've potentially got a bit of a hot hand here, because
unless it's Jeff Jarrett.
Well, obviously, if he wins the tournament, different story. But they've got a hot hand here, because if it is, let's say, a Hangman Page or a a heel figure that could potentially take this belt at Wembley, I don't want to see it happen. I'm rooting for Swerve, the babyface, to hold on as babyface champion. So they've done away with that worry about their 2 consecutive transitional champions thing as well.
Yeah.
Like a real success story in 2024 is Swerve Strickland.
I doubted Swerve, and I shouldn't have. He's got the ball.
Yeah.
Give me the ball. He's got it. He's completely proved me wrong. He's been great.
Let's answer some questions from the chat as we wrap things up here. Mark Lee Willis says, hey guys, is there a chance it's a 4-way at All In? Swerve, Ospreay, MJF, and Garcia all linked, or is it fair to highlight AEW's roster size when WWE have a similar one? So 2 different questions there, but
AEW seems miles bigger, and they rely on, well, they don't need to, but they use imports a lot. I think it's how you manage the size of the roster, and I think Levesque's done a better job, quite frankly, in recent, to anyone in WWE who has that Takeshita feeling. At the minute, not really.
Brand split obviously helps a lot more. It's like
yes,
up on
Collision.
Perception is reality a lot in wrestling as well, and like it's not a bad faith take to say the roster's too big. It's how it feels when you watch it.
My worry, Mark, is I think the world title match will be kept between Swerve and Danielson at this point. My worry is that Ospreay, Garcia, MJF is a 3-way. Nah. Come on, we've just been there with Wembley, and you've just had a significantly smaller gate. Let's not piss about. It's Wembley. Let's give us your best singles matches.
And then guess what? Is class. It's huge.
I don't want Garcia in there.
No. I'm saying that's a singles match.
But he's Garcia's like, and he's not going away in this narrative.
Do you? Obviously, I know there's a week apart, but it's still basically the same problem. You've got a pay-per-view pretty much straight afterwards. Are you having Garcia the kind of hot he is right now, that maybe All In's not his night, but All Out is?
It's not really hot at all.
No, but you've got time. You've got the summer to get hot.
I guess.
And then Wembley isn't quite right, but Chicago's right there to give him his like massive night. Like Orange Cassidy, I guess, and Moxley.
Yeah.
Were kind of.
I mean, I hope I do not want to see a 3 or a 4-way. It's another compromise. Yeah. And they've compromised way too much at Wembley, and I could give a toss about All Out. Chicago gets enough shows. Guess what? They've got a show this week.
Yeah.
On Dynamite, and the tickets aren't being sold. I could give a toss about Chicago.
Sailor Hammond says, Happy Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to you, sir.
Canada
Sailor
Day.
Hammond. Taking my 30-year-old brother to his first live wrestling event this Saturday. Hopefully he doesn't fall asleep like I did trying to watch Forbidden Door. Steve Nikolakopoulos, a.k.a. Edward Shiraz Hansis, says, G'day, prickly muffins. I know you're reviewing the show, but it feels like Danny Garcia, Swerve, Ospreay, thanks Edge, and MJF will be Team AEW for War Games. Who will be the 5th and who wins?
Didn't consider Garcia as that.
I hope whatever happens, they need to shift some goddamn tickets. So I think you'll see some heat angles coming up, and I think the identity of those men in the match will be revealed shortly. I just hope the Elite lose some kind of stipulation where it's like your powers are revoked, and then they can just be annoying prelim heel dickheads for a while. They're entertaining, but when they're tethered to this illogical storyline, it will always undermine my investment in the actual act. They just want to be goofballs and then this idea that they want power and they have a little bit, but then it's immediately taken away. It's been a mess since day one of the angle. If they can just free themselves of the plot hole and just allow them to swim into these beautiful ocean waters of daft bollocks, I'll be happy.
There's more to get out of. So the babyface is winning, and as you say, that's like, you don't even need to stip it up overtly just to say it's power's on the line here. It either all goes back to Tony Khan or none of it does, and they lose, and that's that. Like, it goes, I'm with you, Sejad, Blood and Guts just has never really quite delivered. But the one I always think of where it's like, I've tried really hard to tell a couple of stories here, is the one with the big finish on the roof with the Claudio and Kingston thing.
Yeah.
With the baby faces, you can bring them together for one night, but it doesn't mean that they can't be rivals heading into Wembley. I'm not even pitching can they coexist. I'm just saying you're supposed to be fighting for AEW here. You're allowed this one night. Swerve, theoretically, could be partnering with 4 of his top contenders, but for this one night, you get it done as a team. You can tell some stories inside the cage, and if Hangman Page is involved on one team or the other, which does feel like, if not the wild card, that's the direction. Which is really exciting, by the way. This Hangman Page video.
It was on College, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think it's really exciting. Like, they're straight away, they've shown you so much without revealing exactly which side he's going to be on, and that's the perfect way to book Hangman Page right now, I think. So for Blood and Guts, I think you're going to get loads of cool stories out of it, but just bring the power one to the end.
July 24th, Blood and Guts. I was just double checking there. And yes,
Ain't
Vanders,
too far away.
we can all agree that this pay-per-view was better than watching England at the Euros. Karthik says...
I was on a pop more for.
Karthik says, I can't believe the Fed's become the home of the best main event promos and wrestling angles in 2024. He was hoping to mention that on the Raw preview. Obviously, we're doing a different...
What annoys me about this is that AEW's like, this roster of promos, man. They need to do more of them.
I agree.
They need to do way more of them.
It's
John Moxley doesn't even want to open his mouth.
yeah. It's
Half the time.
It'll change as well. Like talent shift and people get more and less over and things click and things spark and like the difference in like there's a lot of talk. As you mentioned it before about the rising tide raises all ships. We talked a bit last week.
It's good. That,
Phrase,
isn't it?
I like
It's
that.
good.
Yeah,
It's a good phrase.
It's just like it says a lot about situations.
I've got one that I thought of when I was making dinner the other night. I was like, can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs.
You can't. It's
Smart,
really smart, that. Because it says quite a lot about like the creative process and how.
So if you try, you just get shell everywhere.
Indeed.
Shell in it.
But then it's like it just talks about like perseverance.
Yeah.
I like that. It's really poetic.
Just go about that slightly.
Sorry.
That's really good.
When WWE gets hot, everything else dies. Right? It's when it's provable fact, right? When WWE gets really, really hot, everything around it dies, and it's able to put everything else out of business and leave nothing. That's not going to happen this time.
No,
that is not going. This is going to be different, right? AEW could suffer and suffer and suffer. They're going to get a really great TV deal. Tony Khan's as good as said it without being able to reveal the nature of the deal, but they're going to get a great deal. And even if they didn't, they'd be fine. They're not going anywhere. A very stubborn wrestling fan with loads of money is not going to allow it. So this is different. Like WCW went, ECW went, 80s boom period, all the territories went. It's different this time around. Like WWE's boom will come to an end and AEW will still exist. So we are entering sort of uncharted territory in that regard. And there will come a time where Triple H can't, like, he's kind of run through all of his things, or there's just not quite the talent coming, whatever it is. Think about it like NXT. You just, you've hit the end here. And a product is like clearly better, objectively better in every single respect. There is nothing else left for you to do with this. That will come a day where that happens with this version of WWE, and then AEW becomes the promo company again, or something. You know what I mean? Like it is WWE now. It is WWE right now. What's been on the level of like Punk and Cody in AEW this year? Has there been anything promo wise? Nope. And that was like unthinkable.
Yeah.
Even in 2023, divisive as it was, Cole and MJF when it was good, it was great.
Yeah.
He's going to turn on him. You still felt something, but it's just not been there yet.
Mr. Phoenix says, not ideal for the optics. The men's Owen match makes the card. Women's Owen's match gets shunted to the very crowded kickoff, and the mid-card title is held up while their main is being used for dated HLA. That fair?
He doesn't say anything fair at all, so I'm not answering the question.
I feel like even I'd say, I don't think you can just reduce Mina and Tony and Mariah to just...
No, it's not just titillation. There's an element of that, but it's not just rooted in that. The point about the...
I mean, I'm not going to mourn the fact that a Saraya match wasn't on the main card.
No,
what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Oh.
If the argument is, I hate getting drawn into this because I know what he does, and he does it on purpose. If the argument here on merit in terms of selling a pay-per-view, the business model, even I'm bored of it, but it's still a business model of AEW is it's where the best wrestler, including the fucking tagline, right? Who's the best, Shingo, Takagi, or Saraya?
All right,
Yes.
but then don't put Saraya in, put Serena Deeb in. Don't put in.
I get it, but
don't put in weaker
don't fucking
wrestlers.
defend him.
No, I'm not defending him. I'm just saying, like I agree that match isn't strong enough to go on the pay per view. Make a stronger match.
I get it, but they've invested in it now.
Also, Matt Reigns does say, shout out to Matt Reigns, the 0 hour being nothing but matches is criminal too. You're wearing out your crowd for dark elevation ass matches. Lucha Bros and Mystico aside. I love you, brothers. It's coming home.
I agree completely.
Hope you're well, Matt.
It's not coming home. I don't agree with that at all. We're absolutely hopeless.
4 matches was it?
That was 5.
5.
Kyle Fletcher beats Pentaco in 3 minutes. I don't know if that made the actual 0 hour, but what's the point in that?
2 hour pre-show, so 5 matches over 2 hours is virtually an entire takeover, and then the pay per view starts.
I'm telling you now, AEW will never get hot with this model. Like the pay-per-views are like No one's asking him. People like Warner are saying you have to do 5 hours of TV. That's clearly what's happened here. Like 60% of which was kind of meaningless. If you're doing 60% of inessential, optional weekly TV in Big Egg Wrestling Universe on a near monthly basis, you will never make people want to properly see it in the same way. You're just overwhelming people completely. I agree with Matt Reigns completely. What's the point in doing 4, 5 pre-show? It's a joke. That's a Dynamite.
People want their $60 worth. Or
Well, increasingly they don't. They increasingly don't. Look at the ratings. Look at the gates. Less should be more. Tony Khan will never get it.
No, well, a lot of people that think we're just tired Brits.
Not enough. Look at the business metrics. I am right on this. I'm not right about everything. Look, I've just said I was wrong about Swerve and his ability to truly be the guy. I was wrong about that. I am right about this.
Yeah. Final couple of questions. Kaz says, hey lads, with the rankings on and off, do you think a league system would work, or is the roster too big? You can use win-loss streaks for storylines. Top 7 qualify for the CC. Promotion, relegation to and from the Ring of Honor as well.
The promotion to and from Ring of Honor, earnestly, isn't the worst idea. Because
a relegation 6-pointer is I'm kind of into something like that.
It should, like the rankings, all of it should exist in a very unspoken way. Like, you should, if things aren't going great, I don't mean results kayfabe-wise, I just mean performance level, quarter hours, all the data they use. If things aren't really going your way at the moment, Ring of Honor is the best place to go, hide, refine, come back with something hotter. Just do work, whatever.
Certainly hide in Ring of Honor.
Yeah. Likewise, if at the point at which an act gets so hot that they feel too big for Ring of Honor, then they move up. But you don't outright say it. Like, relegation is a sort of a disastrous term in pro wrestling, isn't it? Like imagine losing that match. Be like, right, off you go to Honor Club. Like, anyway, pay more for Honor Club. Like, it doesn't really work, does it? But the rankings has always been the good faith argument
at Christmas.
Yeah, the good faith argument on rankings, just as this pitch is, it should exist without saying so. Like, it used to be something that really helped the booking instead of becoming this thing that they wanted to do away with because it was stopping them.
Too much like hard work.
Yeah, like
too much like
the hard
work.
work. Like,
too much like hard work.
And be fair with it as well, because you were saying, like, when people are like, Garcia's on a run. No offense, but is he? Like, because of the people.
Great example.
It should only ever have been interpreted as a guide. I do like the league idea, right? But let's use a real sports analogy for the sports-oriented aspiring company, right? If you look at tennis, right?
Wimbledon
starts today.
Yeah.
There are world tennis rankings, right, that no one pays attention to. It's all about the tournaments and the Grand Slams. In soccer, football, if you look at the Nations League, no one cares about who wins that, who wins the most matches over an accumulated amount of time. And if wrestling's entertainment as well, like if someone gets hot, you can't be in a title match because you're 17th in a 50-person league and it's November, so we'll have to wait for it to reset. If someone becomes the biggest star in the world over 2 weeks, I'd love it's the logical extreme that cannot work. It just can't work.
Final question. Whilst we did really enjoy this pay-per-view, and I'm not trying to put a dampener on it at the end, but it's a good question from Marcel Laviolette, who says, Jeezy Peeps, I had to turn it down with the intro. Yeah, sorry, as always, for that. The boys are back on my screen. Do you think the flair of Forbidden Door is gone?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got New Japan is as cold as ice. It only worked in 2022, and I've made this point before. It only worked in 2022 because people wanted it to work, and people no-sold the reality of the situation, like suspending disbelief is how wrestling works, to make it work in their own heads, because it was such a cool thing to happen. I said it, like, Clark Connors was received as a breakthrough star.
Yeah.
Has anyone cared about him since? I'm not being harsh,
No.
but that's the reality of the situation. People wanted it to work. It was untenable all along. It came around a little bit too late. The pandemic obviously didn't help. The relations between New Japan and AEW, the promotion which announced its launch outside of the Tokyo Dome. That was going to piss them off. I mean, the optics of that were horrendous. They made some really political mistakes early. The relationship got repaired. I'm glad it did. If nothing else, it'd give us, Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay in that great night. It's just, they're not doing away with it. They're doubling up. That is the AEW way. But yeah, I mean, as a concept, it's just once the novelty wore off, and it was always going to, and it now has. You've revealed two cool promotions, not sharpening one another's iron.
The way to buy a Forbidden Door 2025
to make New Japan hard.
Well, would be to make New Japan the home team for the night and do it like in Japan somewhere.
They're kind of doing that.
But they're doubling up, as Sid says. And it's like, you get that. You get the egg on January 5th, and then there'll still be Forbidden Door in Chicago or somewhere.
I think both those shows sound great.
Like, that's how you could have done it. Oh, we're taking it was stark this year.
It was stark this year. No one really cared about Naito. No one really cared about Shingo. So, oh, God.
They're the old guard as well.
They're new in an AEW world, and they still don't care. They still do not care. Sad, but it's reality, innit? Reality is sad. It is honestly the fucking Fed's on top and I'm miserable.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let us know your thoughts on Forbidden Door, either in the comment section or on X at WhatCultureWW. Watch, they can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Or Michael Sidgwick at
Serena Deeb's match, but he died on the last pay-per-view. M. Sidgwick.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE, and make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. The Raw preview and SmackDown review is available right now as a podcast if you want to go and listen to it. Thank you to everyone who's joined us live on YouTube, by the way. Thank you for your comments and your questions, your donations, always much appreciated. But for now, this has been the Forbidden Door review. My thanks to Hamflett Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.